So the first of many Sundays for this NFL season are upon us, and of course, we had the first game in the books on Thursday night, and we had a home dog winning outright with the Broncos. But guys, as I've always maintained, if you happen to catch the Friday video report, historically speaking, I've always been a believer that in week one of the NFL season, the favorites are the way to go. That when all is said and done on Tuesday morning, you're going to see 9 or 10 favorites coming through here, even though the Broncos, the 3-point underdog, went outright on Thursday night. Why? Well, as I told you in Friday's video report, no matter the sport, no matter the season, the numbers are always soft in week one of action. The same holds true here in the NFL because the odds makers do not have any more firm grasp on what to expect from these teams after 4 weeks of meaningless preseason games than you or I. So consequently, you have a lot of chalks that are seriously underpriced, just like you've seen in college football in the first 2 weeks as well. Now, naturally, the line makers are going to get a better handle on what's going on, and these lines are obviously going to be adjusted. And consequently, what I've always found in week number 2, the dogs come barking back with a vengeance. But on week number 1, the favorites, my way of thinking, historically speaking, are the way to go. So listen, I've got 2 complimentary plays here for this video report for Sunday. They're both on the early card. I'm going to take a look at the Green Bay, Jacksonville, and Houston, Chicago games. So let's get right to it, guys. First up, the Houston game with the Chicago Bears. Guys, I don't see any difference between the Chicago Bears team this year and the one that we saw last year, because it's all going to come down to Jay Cutler. And listen, guys, you know Jay Cutler gets a lot of knocks, and he certainly deserves them because he is the master of the ill-timed interception and the turnover. But the fact is, statistically speaking, he had a decent season last year. If you simply look at the numbers, the passer rating was somewhere around 92%, and, you know, his interceptions were down. But this isn't about the Chicago Bears today. No, folks, this is about a Houston Texans team that was stout defensively last season, but is so much better offensively this season. And this is one of those teams today that is severely underpriced. Playing at home, only, 5-point favorite today. Earlier this morning, they were a 4.5-point chalk. This is a team that defensively has 10 of 11 starters back. This is a team that has J.J. Watt back from the back surgery, no pun intended. A guy who didn't play in the preseason, but there are no limitations on the number of snaps that he's going to be on the field for today. This is a team that defensively, in the final 9 games of last season, allowed just 12 points a game. Overall last year, number 3 in defense. So this is a team that definitely is going to bring the pressure on Jay Cutler today. And that's when you're going to see Mr. Cutler revert to the guy that throws those ill-timed interceptions. But let's talk about the offense. So they went out and they got Brock Osweiler. And listen, I think that Brock Osweiler is not going to be a superstar quarterback, but he's certainly going to be better than a guy who was more interception prone than Cutler. And that, of course, is the now departed Brian Hoyer. Osweiler, ironically, made his first career start as a member of the Broncos last year at Soldier Field against these same Bears and guided the Broncos to a 17-15 win by going 20-27 against these Bears for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I think the big key acquisition was the second big free agent that the Texans went out and got, and that is Lamar Miller, the underutilized running back for the Miami Dolphins the past couple of years. A guy who averaged 4.5 and 5.1 yards per carry the past 2 seasons for Miami, but again, was underutilized, but is an excellent wide receiver out of the backfield as well. And let's talk about the receiving core as well. DeAndre Hopkins now has a quarterback who can get him the ball. But the Texans went out, and Bill O'Brien went out and got himself a couple of good wide receivers in the draft, Will Fuller and Braxton Miller. So suddenly, you've got an offense that pretty much had last year Brian Hoyer and DeAndre Hopkins and nothing else. And now you added Lamar Miller. And now you added Will Fuller. And now you added Braxton Miller. And now you have a team that's got the ability to put some points on the board. And that is dangerous. Listen, the Bears were just mediocre last year in John Fox's first season at 6-10. Houston, 5-1 straight up in their last 6 season openers, are on an 11-3 ATS roll as a favorite. I love them today. to my way of thinking, and my best bet is on the Cleveland-Philadelphia game today. The Houston play came this close to being my best bet today. That's how much I like this game. In fact, if I was to play a parlay today, and listen, guys, I haven't played a parlay in years because I just don't believe in parlays. But if I was to have a secondary play, a play for something smaller today, I would think about playing a parlay with Houston and my best bet with Philadelphia and Cleveland today. That's how much I like this game, the Houston play. Now, the other play, you've got Green Bay, a team that is a 4.5 to 5 point favorite today at Jacksonville. Now, am I in love with this play on the Packers? Not nearly as much, but I can certainly see why a lot of people are going to jump on the Packers because of the low price. I am a little bit concerned because Packers, of course, the starters hardly played in the preseason. Obviously coaches want to protect their starters in the preseason. How did that work out for Teddy Bridgewater and the Vikings? I've never understood that philosophy. Really, it's coach speak. It's not that they're protecting the players in the preseason. It's coaches protecting their asses in the preseason. Because it's okay if you're a guy, unfortunate like Teddy Bridgewater, who gets hurt and suffers a devastating injury during practice. That's okay. That's okay. Because it's the preseason, but it's practice. But if you get hurt in a preseason game, then it's the coach's fault. But if you get hurt in the preseason during practice, well, that's not the coach's fault. That's just one of those things. But you think about it. Can coaches predict whether a player is going to get hurt in a preseason game as opposed to practice? Of course not. It's just protecting their asses. But in this case, you had the Packers who, of course, Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to see much preseason play. But Packers obviously have Aaron Rodgers, and they've got Jordy Nelson back. Now, is he going to see extensive action today after missing last season? No, but they'll probably play about half the snaps, and just his mere presence on the field opens things up for that Packers offense because when he's on the field, that makes Randall Cobb all the more effective. And a guy that you also have to look out this season for the Packers is a guy they went and signed out of free agency, the tight end Jared Cook, who had a really good preseason. Of course, with the Packers, the big question mark is Eddie Lacy looks good, but listen, guys, I lost 20 pounds over the past 5 weeks having pneumonia, but that doesn't mean I'm a qualified NFL running back either. You know what I mean? Lacy looks the part, but is he going to be productive? Because they haven't had a productive ground game in a couple of years. And that offensive line, you just don't know what you're going to get from the Packers. Now, the Jaguars have a nice offense. I mean, Blake Bortles, if he can stop throwing the interceptions. Last year, threw for 4,400 yards, 35 touchdown passes, but 18 picks. But he's got some nice wide receivers with Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns. He's got a tight end who's healthy with Julius Thomas. Has a couple of good running backs with T.J. Yeldon, the guy who used to play at Alabama. And they went out and got Chris Ivory from the Jets. So they have some nice offensive weaponry. Can the defense get the job done, though? And that was Gus Bradley's calling card, of course, when he came from Seattle. That's going to be the question here. I think one thing that Jacksonville has going for it today, it's going to be the high heat and humidity in Jacksonville. The home field advantage, of course, comes into play here as well. Packers have the quick strike offense. I was going to originally tell you to take the Packers, but I'm wondering, is it a trap line? Could this be a field goal game? And then it dawned on me, I'm looking at the total in this game. I'm looking at 47.5 points. These two teams aren't exactly defensive juggernauts here. I mean, Packers don't play much defense. Yeah, they like to put the pressure on opposing quarterbacks, but they really haven't been stopping anybody for about 3 years now. So instead, I'm looking at this game perhaps being a 31-24 game, right? A 28-24 game. Why play the side? Instead, take this one to go over the posted price. I'm thinking this game easily has 49 to 52, maybe 54 points in this game. So that would be your other complimentary play. Playing the Packers and Jacksonville going over the posted price. Who the hell cares who wins? Just go for the over. And the Houston Texans would be your other complimentary play. I looked at some other games today. I think Tampa Bay maybe has a chance to win again against Atlanta. After all, they swept the season series a year ago. I'm just not a believer in that Atlanta defense. After all, last year, what did they only have? 19 sacks for the entire season. And Jameis Winston is much improved. And I think that Dirk Coder, and now is, I'm sorry guys, I'm losing my voice here. Now his head coach is going to unleash that offense even more. I like the Buccaneers. I think they could probably win this game, but again, just one that I possibly considered. Minnesota, I don't know what you expect with the Vikings here. This team laid an egg last year in their opener on the road against San Francisco in that Monday night doubleheader. Do they lay an egg again this time against Tennessee? So I have my doubts about them. So again, I'll just ride my two best bets. The one that I really love, Houston, and the other game, of course, as I said, the heck with the side. Take Green Bay and Jacksonville to go over the posted price. That'll do it, guys. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you again on Monday when we do this again.